Okay, the first thing I want you to do when you're starting your drawing the nose using the lights and shadows is to tone the paper right below. So I've got a section that's about the same size as the picture of the nose on the page, and I'm just going in and I'm toning the ground where I'm just using a bit of the side of my graphite pencil or just the side of my pencil and lightly covering the entire space with my pencil, and then I'm rubbing it with the tissue to create that toned ground, and then I'm going in and making a grid, the exact same grid on the top picture as I do have on my toned ground. So what I'm doing is I start, once I've got my grid there and my toned ground in there, which is going to be my medium tone in there, I'm looking for shapes that are highlighted and shapes that are shadowed on the nose. So I'm not using any harsh lines or anything. I'm just looking for lights and shadows, shapes of lights and shadows. So here, right around the nose here, there's a bit of a, I don't know, say a teardrop shape that is a darker shade. So that shape I'm going to take and I'm going to transfer it onto my paper right below it there, and I'm drawing the shape. So you'll see I'm not drawing the nose, I'm just drawing shapes of lights and shadows, and I keep doing that. And I'm also looking to see with the grids and with everything else that I've got my nose in about the right spot. Is it far enough away from the grid line on the nose? Is it far enough down on the grid line on the nose? So I'm putting it in the right spot. That's what those grid lines are for. Don't rely on them, to be marking exactly, but you need them in that same zone, and then you're going to be drawing it. So then you could see on the nostril part, I'm not saying I'm drawing the nostril, I'm outlining a dark shaded spot. So I outlined it up on the original picture, and then I'm transferring that shape that's darker down on the other one. And here I am following a bit of the line that's going in here and noticing some darker shapes on the other side. So again, I'm going to follow along, and I'm just drawing these shapes for the lights and shadows. At first here you'll see I'm just doing shadows, but I'll stop this and then I'll speed this up. And then you can see where I'm drawing the shapes of the highlights as well. So I'm drawing the shapes of the shadows as well. I'm drawing the shapes of the highlights. And those are the things I'm transferring. And then once I have the shapes of them in there, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to use my eraser to erase where the highlights should be. And I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to darken the spots where the shadows are going to be. So at no point am I saying, okay, I'm drawing a nose, here's where the nostril is, here's where that is. I'm just looking for the shapes of the highlights and shadows, and I'm transferring those shapes that I'm seeing from one to the other. And then I'll start adding my shadows and my highlights in there. So watch what happens as I go in here. I'm just outlining shapes on the original drawing, and then I'm transferring those shapes to the other one. So you can see there's the shape of a highlight that I'm drawing right there now. There's another few other little shapes of highlights that I'm putting in, and you'll have all these markings for all the shapes that you're seeing for the highlights and for the shadows, okay? So at no point are you trying to say I'm drawing the edge of the nose or I'm drawing a nostril. You're simply drawing highlights and shadows. So you can see up on the top and on the bottom, it looks a little odd at the moment, but once you have them drawn in, then you can go in with your pencil or your charcoal and you start putting in the rubbings and the dark shades where you have indicated them with those shapes. And so you're just shadowing the shapes. And then for the highlights, you're going to go in with your eraser and you're going to erase out those shapes that you drew for the highlights. And as you keep doing that, I mean, you're going to be smudging as you go so that you don't have such a sharp edge with your eraser, but you're adding you're going in with your eraser for the highlights, your charcoal for the dark shading, because the toned ground is already your medium shade that you've got in there. So this is what you're doing, and you can see the nose just starts to take shape. And at no point did we use harsh lines. I mean, there's almost no lines used here at all, just highlighting and shading the shapes that you see.